Did you have your wisdom teeth taken out?
I did. I don't know they haven't taken out. I convalesced on your fucking couch.
Oh, that's right. But boy, you convalesced on my couch for a lot of things.
Yeah.
You also convalesced on my couch for your leg, your knee.
All my surgeries.
2 surgeries.
Yeah, by the way, where the fuck were you for my colectomy? I should have been at your couch. Just show up. Is this the home? This place looks different than I remember. I'm here to shit my pants.
That was a nice couch. I didn't want you there for the colectomy.
Yeah, exactly. Somewhere that thing still exists with my image pressed into it. Just like the Han Solo body.
It was not a foam cushioned couch. It was a down couch.
Yeah.
So your imprint really did sink in.
Quiet, please.
It was feathers full of my farts is what it was. Just farty feathers. Just feathers and farts.
My apologies to whoever I gave that to.
They'll be fine.
2.
Presents a truly terrible podcast. Welcome to Nonsense Season 2, Episode 41. I'm Jeff Parker.
I'm Stu Little.
This is our take on the week's business, tech, and entertainment headlines. This time, we'll look at technological advances in cooking.
Fire good.
It's the National Dog Show Broadcast Day. 205 breeds of dog compete in this year's show, just about half the total breeds of dogs in the world. John O'Hurley hosts a compressed 2-hour version of the actual event where dogs are judged on how closely they meet the criteria for their breed: appearance, structure, movement, and temperament. It was shot on Saturday, May 16th. Word on the street has it that a Labrador Retriever named Max took the top honor this year.
With all this expansion in sports betting across the country, did they run like a line on this? Could I have bet on who wins?
No. The Labrador breed dates back to 1830s, so merely 200 years. That's when most of our dog breeds were invented, by humans, by inbreeding. In the 19th century, eugenics became a fad in Victorian England. That gave birth to competitive dog breeding.
I mean, it gave birth to the royal family too, didn't it? No? I don't know if Charles is a big listener, but I think that family tree is pretty straight last time I checked.
2023's winner was a Celium terror named Stash. The inbreeding that created him made him susceptible to eye conditions, dental issues, ear infections, and back problems, especially in vertebral disc disease.
So they basically inbred him into an American status? Is that what they did? They just gave him, does he have diabetes as well, the poor guy?
When you hear purebred, think inbred. Kennel clubs prohibit dogs from ever breeding outside their breed.
Wow. I had no idea the kennel clubs started in the South. When you bring your dog in to get paperwork, do they play a banjo while you're in there?
Yes, the American Kennel Club, a proud tradition of animal abuse.
Ding, 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 ding.
I'm going to put a link in the show notes to a hilarious video about this from Adam Conover. Adam Ruins Everything is one of the best video series on YouTube. How's your week going?
Well, like always, I was fine showing up for the recording, but now I'm kind of sad about all the dog inbreeding that's going on. And then part of me is like, there should be an OnlyFans page for this because I'm sure somebody would pay for it, but that's just me trying to monetize the terrible situation.
When I go off on this, a friend of mine always says, you just hate dogs. You just hate dogs.
No.
That's not true. The reason I care about this is because I really love dogs.
There are a few people in my life that I know. I can't name one person that loves dogs more than you.
How's your week going?
We've had a lot of travel this year, especially the latter part of this year. So our plan was to just stay local for Thanksgiving, spend the holiday home with my family, my kids, and my wife.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah, and just not make it anything complicated because we're going to spend a couple weeks away over at the end of the year. And my wife doesn't care for turkey.
Of course.
So she was completely indifferent on what to make for dinner. And I was just drifting along last week, not really thinking about what to make. I'll just do something normal. But then Monday morning, I woke up this week and I had this serious trepidation on not having a plan.
Oh yeah, you got to have a plan.
You got to do something different, right? You got to up your game.
Sure.
And that's challenging for me because every week I'm smoking beef ribs or a brisket or I'm reverse searing salmon.
Your bar is high.
The bar is high. So I was there's only two options here. I either go down, right? When they go high, you go low. And I go down and just bring home McDonald's.
Some Taco Bell.
Or Taco Bell. Yeah, exactly. Taco Bell. Which one of you had the gordita?
Happy Thanksgiving, family.
Who had the Thanksgiving gordita? So that's option one. And I don't even know if fucking Taco Bell's open on Thanksgiving. Option two is you've got to go up. You've got to do something even more unique or different.
Sure.
Without going too crazy. So anyway, my special meal today I've planned is I'm going to actually smoke a turkey, which I've never smoked a turkey over charcoal. I typically do not like poultry with smoke. I think it's overpowering.
Sure.
So I'm going to try to do it with very light smoke.
That's cool.
And I'm looking forward to the bird because the vertical roaster is basically standing up, it's sitting.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it just smiling at me while I smoke it. So the part that I'm the most excited about is using the smoked turkey drippings to make a smoked turkey gravy.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Which will be great because I make an excellent mashed potato. So I'm very excited about that.
Yes.
However, as you know, my wife dislikes turkey and anything smoked. So
and the smoke flavor, yes.
She's not going to enjoy any of this. Me and my kids will love it. I might actually get her a fucking gordita because that would make her happy.
I think you should get her Taco Bell.
Truth be told, she asked for a ham, which I've known this woman for almost 2 decades. She's never once asked for a ham. And I was like, you want a ham? You're getting a fucking ham. So.
Oh, you're actually cooking a ham?
Yeah. Well, no, you're warming it up. It's already cooked. You just take it and fucking warm it up and throw a glaze on it.
Yeah.
It's not even cooking. It's like paint by number, but a ham. It's impossible to fucking.
Yeah, honey baked ham.
Which, by the way, how they haven't gotten into the cannabis business is beyond me. I don't like. Right? I mean, it's the right time of year. Your fucking in-laws are coming over. It's a good time to be high. It's literally in the name of the company. It's honey baked ham. It should be like honey baked Jeff. Like while you're there, I'd like the ham.
A little something extra for you can buy while you're at the honey baked ham store. Sure.
You're waiting in line to pick up your ham. You just want to get a little something, and it's nice. It's gravy flavored. Anyway,
that's
my new
so
business.
funny.
How about you? How's your week going leading up to this holiday?
I always try to make this a week of thankfulness. I am thankful for my family. As our listeners know, my dad turned 90 this year. We had a big party for him, and I got to see so many of my family, and I just absolutely adore these people. I love my friends, and I'm so grateful for my friends. CJ, I definitely count you as one of them. I am so lucky to have the friends that I have. I am deeply grateful for all of the amazing people who keep our businesses running, who keep our house running, who keep me running, which includes a long list of hiking partners over the years, as well as some really smart doctors and nurses. And I'm grateful for our listeners, especially the ones who take the time to interact with us. Tell us when we get something right or wrong. Bring us new ideas and new ways to look at things. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Your support means more than I could ever express.
What I think is fascinating is the juxtaposition of this, where your week was filled with thankfulness for your friends and your family and folks in the show. And my week was just cooking food. Like, sure. I mean, this episode is no different than the other 100 episodes we've done, where you're just like...
That is a perfect distillation of Thanksgiving.
I mean, for us especially. I'm just like, yep, here's the holiday that, celebrates eating. I'm in.
Let's get to our headlines.
I'm in. Let's do it.
Florida Surgeon General advises against adding fluoride to drinking water. Oh. Decades of evidence show the cavity-fighting mineral drives down tooth decay, but some say the science behind fluoride is changing and needs closer scrutiny. On Friday, Florida Surgeon General Joseph Ladapo announced that communities in the state should not add fluoride to drinking water because of what he called neuropsychiatric risk associated with fluoride exposure.
I mean, Florida has long been proven to drive up tooth decay from meth. Fluoride, on the other hand, has been driving tooth decay down.
They're going to continue to drive tooth decay out.
I mean, look, this has all obviously been top of mind for folks when you've got RFK running around saying they shouldn't have fluoride in water.
Yeah.
Closer scrutiny, maybe look at it again. Sure.
Always scrutinize everything repeatedly. That's not a bad thing.
Of course, this is how science works.
Yes.
However, there's been no compelling evidence that I've seen that says you should take it out. Quite the contrary. All the evidence we have says leave it in.
Yes.
So Ladapo even said he recognizes that it is beneficial. Like, he recognizes that it is beneficial and has some benefit, but is concerned that there could be some issues with it. And I'm like, okay, don't you prove that?
So don't take it out of the water.
Exactly.
Leave it in the water and do your studies simultaneously. And
because you know for fact that if you take it out, you're going to see increased tooth decay. And this is another great example of this general world of policy that we're getting back into, which is it adversely affects folks that don't have the means for dental care. Something like 50% of the kids in this country,
1 out of 2 children,
don't have dental care, routine dental care.
Horrible.
That is
horrible.
Terrible. So when you have that, you go, well, if the community can do some good by throwing some fluoride in the water and there's no downside to it, then that's great. And then also, presumably Bill Gates gets better 5G in the people. I'm assuming that's the next is going. I'm sure Gates gets woven into this somehow, or the Illuminati or the pizza parlor or some other shit is what the big water wants you to do with their fluoride. There are numerous communities that when they've pulled fluoride out of the water for whatever reason, on purpose or on accident, they've seen tooth decay go up.
Of course.
You actually have families in Buffalo, New York, that in addition to being concerned about losing the Super Bowl to the Detroit Lions this year, which hopefully is how that happens.
Sure.
I'm just from Detroit, you know.
I know.
In January of 2023, they realized that fluoride had been missing from their water supply since 2015. They didn't announce it. Apparently the community didn't tell anybody that they were doing this. And it was some local investigative reporter that determined this. And they've seen increase in cavities across that community. Those two things are in fact correlated.
After a Russian spaceship docks to space station, astronauts report a foul smell. It should have been a routine mission to ferry about 3 tons of food, fuel, and supplies to the International Space Station, but when Russian cosmonauts opened the hatch to a cargo spacecraft on Saturday, they got a surprise, a toxic smell.
Yeah, but do you believe that? That's like when a dad says, like, blames the fart on the dog. Isn't that the same thing? Like, the guy that Butch is like, I don't know, I just opened the fucking door. And they're like, really, Butch? It smelled like that last week. And he's like, I don't know what to tell you. Remember, I'm not here because I want to be. It's because Boeing can't land a fucking plane. That's why I'm here, okay?
Sure.
Give me more of that fucking jerky.
Okay, enough of the headlines. Up next, we're going to talk about cooking tech.
Because it's just in time for my favorite national holiday, the one that celebrates overeating. That is my favorite.
Well, yes, it does.
Literally everyone, they're like, I get that it's designed to be thankful, but what does everyone talk about? Passing out on the couch because your fucking lap band tore because you had your 12th helping of turkey. People are like, oh, it's the L-tryptophan. I'm like, no, it's not. You ate 4 pounds of meat.
Sure.
You could eat 4 pounds of meat on any day from any animal and you're going to go nap on the couch.
It's the 25,000 calories you consume today.
Exactly. But before we go to that, Jeff, I've been having trouble getting my computer to keep the time, which means that I'm missing the start of Knots Landing every week.
Oh, no.
Do you have any suggestions?
From Complete Computer Services, Inc., CCS Time is an innovative new approach to keeping time on your IBM PC, XT, AT, or compatible computer. CCS Time keeps track of time, date, day, and year, and is accurate within 15 seconds per month.
Time and day? Wow.
CCS Time is easily installed on any EPROM socket, won't take up a prize slot on your personal computer, and includes a 5-year warranty. Contact Dex International in Burlingame, California to order your very own CCS Time EPROM today.
Order 2 and give 1 as a gift.
A while back, you did a segment on tech in sports.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure you didn't even get one question out.
Nope.
And I didn't shut up.
Yep. It was a day I was hungover. I just thought I'd throw that out there and I could just sit here and do nothing.
You could take the day off.
Yep.
After we recorded, I was walking out to your car and I was still going on about tech in sports.
Yeah, I think you're still talking about it now, actually. That's why I put you on call blocking.
But I think this segment is going to be your version of that.
Uh-oh.
As this episode drops on Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
I thought we could talk about technological advances in cooking.
Oh, yeah.
Cooking is your thing. You're going to have some thoughts on this.
But let's be technically accurate. Eating is my thing. I have just found that it's more efficient if I also cook.
It's how you get from point A to point B.
Yeah. Just want to be clear.
If it's cool with you, I want to discuss technological cooking, things we have and things we don't yet have, but would love to have.
I mean, I'm fine with that. I was really hoping we could do maybe some high-speed rail. Is that not an option?
We'll do that next week.
Oh, boy.
You and I are very different when it comes to cooking. I'm
Yes.
currently using technology that's at least 3,500 years old because I'm making sourdough bread.
Fire.
That's what's happening on my counter right now.
Fire. Good.
I get these sourdough starters, so it's just
Yeah.
literally bubbling and frothy and alive and almost talking.
Okay.
And at that point, I'm ready to use it.
I only like to eat things that have verbal skills.
Yeah.
That's where I draw the line. I'm not interested in crustaceans, but mammals that look like they're about to talk, or sourdough starters.
This is on the verge. We're almost
Yes.
there. Anyway, you, on
Okay.
the other hand, are much more technologically recent with your cooking equipment.
I mean, that's also been more recent for me. In the past, I've been a little more traditional, but I'd say over the past, 3, 4, 5 years, I've started taking a more scientific approach to cooking, which I'm not the first guy to do, certainly, but has made all the difference in the world because it turns out you can apply science and a scientific method to cooking and it works, pretty well.
I know that's what Nathan Mayvold says.
Yeah, that's the ex-CTO of Microsoft, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's brilliant. I'm fearful to buy his book series because I'm afraid once I do, I disappear into a hole for like 6 months.
I'm fearful to lift his book series.
That too. They are not light.
It is not small.
Yeah, and it comes with a Zune,
Which is a little strange, but
which
sure.
is also awesome in the back. I mean, that his form of DRM was to just put it on a Zune.
That's nice.
It's like no one will figure out how to get this off. It's interesting. I mean, there's been a lot of tech advances in the past, 10, 15 years when it comes to food on all fronts, on food safety, on food prep, on
Yes.
being able to do sort of traditional complicated methods and much easier. And I'm fascinated by most all of them. I've really tried to embrace them. My wife just said to me again the other day, I forgot where we were eating somewhere. The food was good. Like it was probably an 8 out of 10.
Sure.
I'm enjoying, I'm talking to her and I said, I think I can do better. And she looks at me and she goes, do you ever just enjoy the meal or are you always constantly thinking about how you can make it better? And I was like, well, yeah, of course. Like it was so foreign to me.
But your brain kind of goes there automatically.
Well, yeah.
I mean, you're already thinking down those lines anyway.
Totally.
To appreciate what they've done, you're kind of breaking it down anyway.
I mean, there are some things, like I had a lovely omakase meal last week, and the amount of effort and knowledge and experience that goes into that meal, I'm never even going to come close to touching.
Oh, it's crazy. It's a lifetime of learning.
15 years of me doing this 100 hours a week,
Yeah.
I'm not as good as that. And so I'm looking at that and I go, no. This is skilled artisan. You win. And those do exist outside of Japanese fare, but that was a labor of love. This guy's been doing it for 50 years. Like, he knows what he's doing.
I love it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I love it.
A lot of other stuff, though, I'm like, you threw some shit together, especially when you're in a restaurant and you've got like this production mill where you have to be able to make stuff quickly when someone orders it.
Yeah.
And you've got to be able to store it on the shelf until someone wants it. That's a lot harder. There's a lot less that they can do. So even though like I do a lot of barbecue, and I just did beef ribs this past weekend, that's a 7-hour cook.
Yeah.
So you can't do that to order. I mean, there are some tricks that you can do, but a lot of these folks end up grilling them quickly so that they can get better yield management. They don't have to throw away a bunch of ribs at the end of the night because nobody ordered them.
Sure.
Anyway, I digress.
What are you doing for Thanksgiving?
Good question.
You're going to do some cooking.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as we're done recording this, I gotta put the shit in because it's here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a smoked bird. I'm gonna do a small-ish bird that I'm gonna smoke.
What's a smallish bird? You do a 12-pound bird? You do what's a smallish bird?
Yeah, I think it's about a 13 and a half.
Cornish game hen. You're doing something that's about 2 ounces.
I'm a dove. I got a parakeet. Like, everybody gets parakeets. It's like when you go to the sushi restaurant, you get a shrimp head.
You got a house finch.
I'm like, eat the finch, yelling at the kids. Max, eat the finch. No, I'm going to do a small-ish turkey because we're going to have a small group that I want to smoke with no added wood, just charcoal. And I'm going to use the vertical roaster that one of our listeners, my father, bought for me about 15 years ago and I've never used. I've used the chicken ones. I've never used the turkey one.
You don't cook your turkey on a beer can?
No, that's actually one of the worst things you can do. You'd never want to put it on a beer can. The problem is with the beer can, you block all the airflow. So you end up slowing it down. So the vertical roasters, I'm using a Spanic vertical roaster for anybody that's interested. The opposite, it actually opens up the bird cavity, which insert colonoscopy joke here.
Sure.
But it opens up the bird cavity and allows more of the hot air to flow inside the bird. So you get a more equal cook time because you get hot air inside the bird and outside the bird. So you sort of cook from the inside out as well, the outside in. Yeah, so that's the plan, is we're going to do that. I expect some crispy skin. I expect a light smoke flavor. I do not like poultry when it has a heavy smoke flavor, so it should be a light smoke flavor.
Okay.
And then I'm going to make a shit ton of mashed potatoes because I've gotten really good at making amazing mashed potatoes.
And what do you put in the mashed potatoes? Is it a 1-to-1 ratio of potato to butter?
No.
What is your mashed potato?
What am I, a pleb? No, I start with a bowl of butter, and then I just add potatoes until I no longer feel sad about myself. That's basically what I do. I have switched from russets to Yukon Golds for mashed potatoes, and that has been
they're good. They're good.
Really fascinating to me because I just grew up, you always make russets. That's just what you do.
Yeah.
Russets are great for baked potatoes.
Correct.
And twice baked. They're really not good for anything else. They're not good. They're not optimal for anything else.
The skin is better for a baked potato.
Oh, for sure. And you want to make potato skins, russet only, for sure.
Yeah.
But even roasted potatoes now, I use usually Yukon Golds. This is a cooking show now. This is great. I love this. This is a lot of fun.
It's finally what you've always wanted.
It's what I've always wanted this to be. It's cooking nonsense.
Okay, tell me about some technology that you're going to use in cooking the Thanksgiving meal.
I will say this. I have been cooking a long time. I grew up in my grandmother's kitchen. She had 7 children. It was a Italian family living in a small house. Mm-hmm. She cooked for everybody all the time. And as she got older, it was harder for her to cook for, a family of 45. Everybody had grandkids and all this stuff.
So fun.
So I started helping her. And I grew up in the kitchen, and I give my inspiration for cooking comes from her.
Sure.
And I grew up making, I remember making ravioli trays with her, which is a shit ton of work.
Yeah.
But I just loved it. And it was a lot of fun to do. It's just sit in the kitchen, for hours, just making raviolis for everybody to eat.
Did she ever hit you when you reached for something?
Oh.
Did you ever get your hand whacked?
Yes. Let's be clear here. There was a spoon in the house that was dedicated to me.
Sure,
there was literally a wood spoon that she would I'm not kidding. This is not an exaggeration.
It's not for actual cooking. It's just for smacking CJ.
It was just for hitting me. She had a wooden spoon and she would chase me around the house. And when that woman died, there were only 2 things I wanted from her estate. Her cast iron pans, because they had 50 years of seasoning.
Oh, yeah.
And the wooden spoon. That's all I cared about. Nothing else mattered to me. And like the wooden spoon also, in addition to having this wonderful memory of her beating me with it, is she would rest it on like her saucepans. So it had this amazing burn mark in it, this like scorch mark, which is how you knew it was the spoon.
And the only reason I mentioned that is you have cooked at my house numerous times.
Yes.
And there have been a few times where I felt like, man, if there was something here, he was going to hit me.
Yeah, I think every time, really.
He wants me out of the way. He wants me not in the kitchen.
Also, I typically would bring razor sharp Japanese knives with me. So if I can't find something blunt to hit you with.
Don't want to be hit by one of those.
Yeah, it's never a fun time. So I've been cooking a long time. I've been cooking really since I was a kid. The thing that I've changed that I think has made the biggest impact on my cooking has been, especially when you're making meats, is cooking to temperature. And I can't stress this enough.
As opposed to?
Feel, time. A lot of people use time.
Yeah.
Time is a terrible metric for cooking anything. Of course. There are too many variables. And when you get into meats, especially, you have, thickness is the biggest difference in this. But you also have starting temperature.
Big variable.
So, and you can, on feel, you can get pretty close. But if you really want to have repeatable multiple amazing meals cooked to temperature. And the only thing you need for that is a decent, not even a great, but just a decent digital thermometer, like an instant read thermometer.
Now, let me ask you this, because this is a technology show. Do you use any of the like Bluetooth thermometers? I have a Bluetooth thermometer for me.
Yeah, so what I found is most of those interfaces aren't terribly useful to me outside of the device, meaning like a Bluetooth or a Wi-Fi one. I'm not using that interface very often, right? If I'm using an instant read thermometer, I'm pushing it into the meat, reading it, and then reprobing somewhere else. I'm not really trying to grab it elsewhere.
Oh, okay. You don't leave it in. You're not leaving it in as you cook.
Well, so I have that set too. I'm specifically talking about the instant read. I think if people just get the instant read, you can at least measure the thing when you look at it, right? You look at it, you can push it in, you can push it into the breast of the turkey and get a temperature reading. Having Bluetooth or Wi-Fi on that, I find to be not terribly helpful.
Useless.
If you want to spend more money to get something that reads faster. And the good ones read in under 2 seconds. So you push the probe in, you get a reading in under 2 seconds. I'll put a couple links in the show notes for folks that are interested.
The worst sex ever.
For $30, that's how I got 2 kids. For $30, you can get one that reads in 5 seconds. There's no reason for you not to own one of these. It costs less than the meat you're cooking in that meal. So the good ones are about $100. The ones that are great but not as good as the good ones are $30. Again, the big difference is the time it takes to resolve the temperature. That's more beneficial. Speeding it up is more beneficial to me than having Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. With that said, because I've got more than one smoking apparatus at my house, I now have multiple temperature controllers, and these are really cool. So if you have a smoker or a charcoal grill, I strongly suggest getting one of these if you want to do low and slow cooks. The thesis is you put what they call a pit probe into the barbecue. So this will be like usually a little thermometer that you clip on with an alligator clip or something, and it reads the temperature of the pit, the barbecue itself. And then there's a blower. Basically, it looks like a little squirrel cage fan blower that you put on the air inlet to the barbecue. And then you set your barbecue up, you set your smoker up such that the temperature is always falling. You always want the temperature to be going down. And if that's the case, if it crosses below the threshold, I do most of my cooking at 225 degrees Fahrenheit. When it goes below that, that fan will kick on and it'll just blow a little bit of air in. And that little bit of oxygen will kick the temperature back up. And you can just ride the temperature that you want to be at because the fan will kick it up.
You can make it pretty much perfect.
You can make it pretty much perfect. And after a while, like I know my grills now well enough that I use those things, but I have them pretty much dialed in. Like I did a 7-hour cook over the weekend and the fan kicked on like twice. Like it's just so well dialed in because I just know it and I know how to set it. It's so close that I can actually tell you when the sun
passed over the barbecue.
When the sun hit, I literally can. When the sun hits the barbecue, I watch the temperature spike and I'm like, oh, sun's on it. I can see it. Those things are awesome because not only do they have the little pit thermometer, they have probes that you can put into the meat and leave in the meat.
That's what my Bluetooth thing is.
Yeah. And so now on those, they have Bluetooth versions and Wi-Fi. And in that case, I find that to be almost a requirement because one of the benefits of doing this is you can remotely monitor. I can go to my office. I can go down the street and have a beer with a friend and still be monitoring my cook and having it manage my cook. So on those, I skew towards Wi-Fi, not Bluetooth.
It has both.
Mine has both. So I can do direct Bluetooth, which I thought was silly. However, having done cooks with that out in the wilderness, because I'm an idiot, having Bluetooth is really nice because I can still be running around the campsite and still have the temperatures on my phone.
Sure.
I'd call that an edge case for most people. I don't think that's something.
Yeah, of course.
I don't think most people are dumb enough to bring an 80-pound Kamado grill out into the fucking forest.
But for those who do, now there's a way to monitor temperature.
For those who do, here you go. That has been great. And there's another ThermoWorks that you can buy for indoor that doesn't have the blower capacity. That is like, I think actually right now it's on like a Black Friday deal for $40. I bought a couple as gifts and they're fantastic because you plug those things in. They're super easy. They work great. You get temperature reads for your food, even like when it's in the oven. And those are super valuable. So if you take one thing away from this episode, it would be, I think, buy a couple good instant read thermometers because they make all the difference in the world for cooking.
I have the Viking oven and the front of the oven is not even the same temperature as the back of the oven.
Isn't that nuts?
As it cooks. It's mine's like 25 years old, so that's my own fault.
Have you ever done the biscuit test on your oven?
No. What's the biscuit test?
It might be worth doing. They do this on smokers. If you buy an offset smoker, typically the first thing you do to try to read the smoker is you put biscuits in. You put biscuits in, touching, and you cover the whole surface, front to back.
You can see where it's hotter and where it's colder.
And then you watch them cook. And based on where they cook, you can see the airflow and the temperatures across the whole spectrum. I know some people do it for their ovens too, so you can see that you should have temperature gradients that are as large on an oven. In a smoker, they can be up to like 150, 200 degrees in an offset.
Yeah, it's not that big in the oven.
Yeah,
but definitely because I cook a lot of like sourdough rolls, you can definitely see where the hot spots are. And I know where all my hot spots and cold spots are.
Do you rotate when you're baking?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do that on the smoker, on my smokers too, quite a bit, especially for bigger cooks. I'll do 1 or 2 rotations, mainly top rack to lower rack or move it around. It's really crazy. You get to know these grills so well. I know my extra large big green egg. I know that's my oldest big green egg, and I know it so well that now, like when I cook a brisket has different thicknesses, right? It's got, if you cook a whole packer brisket, one end is pretty thick, one end is pretty thin. And it can be really hard to bring it up to temp at the same time. Yeah. I know the heat on that grill so well that I can place the brisket such that it all comes up to temp at about the same time. And that's been fun to achieve.
I'm going to ask you in 1 second about the Big Green Egg, because I know you're a huge proponent of the Big Green Egg. So that's the next thing on my list.
Let me say another thing about temperature, though. There's a whole bunch of probes out there now that are, like, I'll call like the fancy influencer probes.
Yeah.
They get a lot of popularity. I see them on Instagram. Very few people that I know that have bought them have liked them for a long period of time. Oh. The folks that have, like, either people get them and they go, these aren't great, or they get them and they go, oh, these are cool. And then after some number of months, they're like, yeah, I don't like them anymore.
Because why?
I just think they haven't performed well. Like, they lose connection to them. These are like wireless ones. They lose connection or they fail and stop working. I've bought high quality controllers. I use a Fireboard, which I love, and relatively inexpensive probes. They're not cheap. They're not expensive. The probes will fail. This is what I have learned, especially when you're putting them in a Kamado grill, because you've got a big ass heavy ceramic top.
Sure.
And after a while, it'll pinch the wire.
Oh, okay.
I use mine a lot. I probably use them on average 2 to 3 times a week, and I get usually 1.5 to 2 years out of a probe. A probe's like $15 to $30.
Yeah, who cares?
So it's not that expensive if you amortize it over 2 years.
You keep spares in the cupboard.
I do now keep spares in the cupboard, which is kind of bananas, but not
great.
in the bananas.
All right, before we go any further, we're going to have to address the 800-pound...
The green elephant in the room.
The green elephant in the room.
God, I wish they only weighed 100 pounds. That'd be lovely if they were that small.
That is your love for the Big Green Egg. This is new technology in cooking. This is a brand new thing. It has been around, the Big Green Egg in the United States has been around since 1975, something like that. I want to say it's like 50 years old. And before that, the Kamado style of cooking has been around for 3,000 years, something like that.
Ish.
Originally,
I was young when it
You were very young, yes.
Yeah. Twinkle. I was just
But the point was, it would keep moisture. The moisture would stay in the rice. You could cook rice in it.
Sure.
Now, see, I could ask I have lots of friends who have Big Green Eggs, so I could ask any of them about them. What I don't have is any other friends who have all the Big Green Eggs.
We have a baker's dozen of them. You don't have a lot of friends who have enough Big Green Eggs that it's going to be listed and the reasons for amicable divorce.
Sure.
Yeah. It's a checkbox on her form.
I have heard this from friends of friends who know actual astronauts.
Yeah.
That your collection of Big Green Eggs can be seen from space.
They actually use it as a location when they're flying over. They go, oh, okay, we locked on to
CJ's
Southern California. We see his deployment right there. It is a disease. I will say they do. Most people just make fun of me for like, why do you need more than one? And there are benefits.
I'm sure there are reasons, yeah.
And I promise this is not just me justifying it to myself. But for those that don't know, these Kamado style cookers.
There are two in the U.S., right? There's two Kamado Joe Classic is the big one. Kamado Joe Classic 3 and the Big Green Egg.
Yeah. So the Big Green Egg has been around, as Jeff mentioned, for 50-ish years. It was, if I remember the story correctly, it was a guy who did some import and export and would bring these like funky things back from Japan at the time. I think he put them on in front of his store or something like that. I don't remember the whole story. But he put them on in front of his storefront, and then people would come in and like ask about the Green Egg. Like, they didn't care about the other trinkets he was selling.
Yeah.
Like, tell me about that thing, because it just looks so weird.
It's the big ceramic.
Yeah.
Describe what is different about a Kamado style cooker.
I mean, it looks like a giant dimpled like golf ball that you open up that's made out of ceramic that's super thick, several pieces.
And the advantage of the ceramic is what?
The biggest advantage is heat retention. So you get stability, heat stability and heat retention so that you don't need a lot of fuel, as opposed to a classic, like, I think when most Americans think a charcoal barbecue, they think of a Weber kettle, which is the old school 1950s.
It's a grill. It's not really a barbecue, but yeah.
Well, you can do both. That's what's great about it, is you can grill, high temperature grill, or you can do low and slow barbecue. And Jeff also just alluded to something that's worth pointing out. A lot of people, including a previous version of myself, a younger, lighter, thinner version of me, would use barbecue and grill interchangeably, and that is bad.
They're not the same thing.
Those are not interchangeable things. Grilling is typically cooking something at high heat. Barbecue is typically cooking something at low heat for a long time. Low and slow is what we like to say.
And a Kamado style cooker can comfortably run at 250 degrees for a very long time, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I've done 20 plus hour cooks in my XL Big Green Egg with not even a full load of fuel, and there's some left when I'm done.
You'd be hard pressed to do that in a Weber. That's not really what a Weber is made for.
No, not hard pressed. It's impossible. Yeah. You're refilling that thing with charcoal. You're typically using briquettes on a Weber. I didn't, but typically folks use briquettes, which burn a lot faster. On a Kamado grill, you're using whole lump charcoal, so chunks of wood that have been charred effectively, which is an interesting process in itself. You put it in a high heat environment with no oxygen, so it doesn't burn, and it just chars it. Then you get this nice long burn out of it.
Beautiful.
So I got all these Big Green Eggs, and they're super heavy. They're extremely fragile. It's like having a giant Fabergé egg collection in your backyard.
Well, the Fabergé eggs aren't that heavy.
No, they're not. No, but like having like giant ones. Like if an elephant were to start collecting Fabergé eggs,
Sure.
It's like those size, like dinosaur eggs.
And the pricing is similar.
Yes, the pricing is also similar, but it's no big deal because they'll give you a 30-year loan for them. It's fine.
That's nice.
You can finance it, 1.7% over 30 years. And it'll be yours.
Big Green Egg comes assembled?
Depends. So they don't ship it assembled. They ship it in pieces in boxes, obviously. And then either you or the place you buy it from will assemble it for you. So really the answer is no. But typically if you buy one, they'll include some sort of assembly service. I've never taken advantage of that because I have to assemble all of my things myself.
Sure, because you got to make sure they're right.
It's really not that hard. It's a very simple. There's 2 metal bands and a hinge and a spring. If you can just read at a second grade level, you won't fuck it up. Like it's not that hard. Somehow people still fuck it up online, which is bonkers to me. They literally give you like shims to shim the dome from the base so that you have the right offset. Like they've made it completely idiot proof, and yet somehow idiots still figure it out to screw it up. But
I'm sure there's videos on YouTube that show you how to put it together. Right?
So anyway, so you have these things and they're great because you can do low and slow cooking for a long time because it retains heat. You can also get the thing insanely hot. Typically, if I'm searing, I'm searing in the 550 to 600 degrees Fahrenheit range. I have, however, on one of my mini maxes, one day set it up, put in charcoal, put on the fan, had the fan going, didn't have the temp probe in because I was like, I'm just gonna run inside, grab some salmon. I'll come right back. Went inside, got distracted, kids running around, whatever. Come back about 10 minutes later.
To cinders.
Oh, it was way worse than that. I was auditioning these aluminum grates for it that I wanted to try out that I had bought. My first time using them on this grill. And I come back and I knew instantly when I saw the egg, something was wrong. Like there was like a sort of a white singe on the outside of the dome. It just didn't look right. Sure. And when I walked up to it, I looked inside the top vent, which was wide open, and the aluminum grill grates were literally on fire. The aluminum was burning. And I was like,
liquid metal.
Oh, that's bad. And my first thought was I need to pull off the aluminum so that it doesn't, like it's going to stick to the stainless steel. And I went to open it. And as I opened it, the whole top rocked like it was going to fall out because the steel around it got so hot it had expanded and was now no longer holding onto the ceramic.
Yikes.
So I was like, oh, we're going to just leave that. We're going to just turn it off and leave it. And the next day when I took it apart, sure enough, yes, the aluminum had melted and there was actual aluminum slag in the bottom of the Kamado. So that happens at around 1300 degrees Fahrenheit. So that thing had no problem getting to 1300 degrees.
Did it destroy the rest of the grill? Was the grill usable after that?
The rest of the grill was perfectly fine. Perfectly fine.
The
steel was not only fine, it was super fucking clean because you just carbonized everything that was anything on there. So it was actually lovely.
You just made a self-cleaning Kamado.
Exactly. I mean, that is the way you clean them. When you want to clean them, you just fire them up to 600 degrees and let it go for like 30 minutes and then just close it off. And then everything just cinders. It just turns everything to cinder and you just brush it off and you're done.
That is the thing everybody who has a Big Green Egg that I know says is they're so easy to clean.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to a regular
There
barbecue.
is a point of contention. Most people, you've got a big firebox below it where you put the your fuel, and then if you want to do direct grilling, you just put a grill surface right on top, or you can offset it to put it lower or higher or whatever. But you're grilling, you basically have the heat source directly under it. If you want to do indirect cooking, which is what you're doing if you're doing like a low and slower reverse sear, they have a thing called a plate setter, which is a large chunk of ceramic that you put on top of the fire, and it sort of deflects.
It's like a baffle?
It's basically, think of like a baffle or just a giant heat deflector so that it gets hot and then radiates the heat, but you don't have a direct flame underneath whatever you're grilling. Most people, I don't know why this is the case, most people will just grill like do their low and slow right on top of that and just let all that fat and grease collect on the ceramic.
Sure.
Makes a huge mess. It rolls off into the fire pit. So egg makes a thin aluminum, like a kind of shitty temporary catch for that I bought them. I found them to be a pain in the ass. I actually sourced pizza tins that are the same size for that and put them in with like a 1-inch lip, and they're great because then it collects all the fat and grease and I just scrape it off and throw it away after 5 cooks or whatever when it gets full. But I digress.
You don't drip that onto your burgers before you make burgers?
It's a different animal. I will routinely smoke things on the top rack and put things that I want at the base on the lower rack. It's really a parlor trick because none of that fat permeates the actual meat, but like it's a nice way to sort of self-baste if I can do it.
There's a restaurant in in Eagle Rock that does that. And they'll cook the burgers on the bottom and then they're cooking pork on the top and the pork drippings are landing on the burgers.
That's not terrible. So what I do is I cheat. I use beef tallow. I'll sear it. When I finish it, I'll sear it in beef tallow, and that imparts a ton of deliciousness into the meat. But back to the egg. The eggs are super cool because they are once you get the hang of it, they're very easy to manage heat. And even when the outside temperatures change, like when you go from daytime to nighttime, it's not a big enough shock to typically upset how much fuel you're using.
Because the ceramic is so thick.
The ceramic's so thick, yeah. Okay. That's the good news. The downside is, my XL, I think, is like 380 pounds.
Yeah, right.
Without the table. I think with the table, it's 400 something pounds. It's bananas. Sure. Moving it is a group activity. I have moved mine before by myself, and I did enough. It's so big, I can't get my arms all the way around the bottom, so I got to scoot down. I was like, I'm going to drop this thing. I'm going to be so sad. I'm going to just leave this.
And also, you won't have a back anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a twofer. But it's funny. So I follow the biggest sort of cooking inspiration I have for barbecue, traditional barbecue, is this guy. He's called Meathead. His actual name is, I think, Rob
Reiner, Meathead.
Rob Reiner. Of course, he goes by Meathead Goldwyn. I think this guy may have actually changed his name. So he used to write wine columns for the Chicago Tribune and the Washington Post. He went by the name Craig Goldwyn, but now he just goes by Meathead Goldwyn.
Okay.
Which I think is fantastic.
Fair enough.
He runs AmazingRibs.com is his URL, which is also fantastic. What I love about Meathead is he does the science and the art. So people will be like, oh, I do it this way because it does so and so. It imparts flavor. And he's like, actually, that doesn't work. And here's the science as to why it doesn't work.
Right.
And I really appreciate that. So, this is not intended to be a cooking show, but a tech and cooking show. He's very responsive to as things have evolved and gotten more sort of technically savvy. USDA is a great example. They've had guidelines for food safety, and they've recently updated those, or at least they have continued to update them. For example, what temperature you want to cook meats to.
Yeah.
It used to be suggested that you'd want to basically kill everything. If you to be lazy and to make sure people don't kill each other, they'll say cook a chicken to 180 degrees Fahrenheit.
Pretty dry.
It's cardboard at that point, right? There's no moisture left in the breast. Maybe the thigh and the dark meat is okay. But the reality is that it's actually not a function of just temperature. It's temperature and time. And the USDA has updated this. So this gets into some of the gnarliness of food safety. When you're dealing with any sort of meat, but certainly any sort of food that could be around animal product, you have the risk of bacteria. And if you get to about basically 165 degrees Fahrenheit, you've killed everything. So you can just be lazy and say cook everything such that the coolest temperature is at 165 degrees Fahrenheit and everything is dead. The problem is the food might also be dead.
Sure.
So you can also get similar results by cooking to a lower temperature but holding it there at a longer time. And that's what I do in a reverse sear. I can bring something up to 135 degrees. As long as I hold it there for several minutes, I'll have the same efficacy of killing pathogens that you would otherwise. But it's also somewhat interesting in that there's this belief that any meat could have bacteria inside it. That's actually not possible unless you force it in there. So if you puncture the meat with a tenderizer or with an injector, yes, you could push bacteria inside the meat. But typically, if you're just taking a cut of beef, for example, the bacteria is on the outside. So once you get the outside north of 165, searing it or whatnot, you don't have to worry about there being any bacteria inside the beef.
Okay.
Where this gets real sketchy is with ground beef. And if you think of all those meat recalls, those E. coli meat recalls we've seen over the past 20 years.
It's always ground beef.
It's always ground beef because what typically happens, and the way this happens is somewhat gross, and I'm sure our listeners don't really want to listen to or hear, but in those large meat packing plants where you have a beef carcass that'll have typically manure on the skin, it'll fall into the processing. So literally, this is what's nuts. When you eat ground beef that could have E. coli in it, you are literally eating poop. And our answer has been to cook it more.
That's awful.
And I go, well, that doesn't make a lot of fucking sense. How about you just take the poop out of the meat and then I don't have to cook it more?
Maybe wash it down, scrub it down before.
And this is why I'm so grumpy about In-N-Out. If we're going to make a grumpiness show,
I didn't know we were.
Well, I am. In-N-Out has refused to put up the sign that says eating undercooked food may cause foodborne illness. Mm-hmm. There's a sign that you put up if you cook things to less than 165. They won't do it, which means I can no longer, for the past 10 years, I can no longer order my classic order, which is a double medium rare grilled onions and spread. That's my favorite thing from In-N-Out. They won't cook it medium rare anymore because they won't put up the goddamn sign.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, just put up the sign. Right. Everybody knows. Everybody fucking knows. No one's going in and out being like, oh, I might get sick. No one reads the sign. Put it in the corner, by the OSHA board. Nobody reads it. Sure,
it's fine.
Sure. Anyway, let me take a Valium really quick. the long and short of it is my recommendation to you is if you're going to eat ground beef.
This is hard on you.
And you are not crazy, meaning you're not like me and you're going to grind it yourself, then I very much recommend you buy that ground beef from somewhere where it's locally ground.
Why locally? What difference does it make where it's ground?
Because then you have to worry about the poop problem. They're getting a side of beef that's already cleaned, and you have a much less chance of there being E. coli in that beef.
But if I get one that isn't locally cleaned, if
It's nationally packed from a national facility.
if it commutes,
Yeah, that's my understanding.
tell me what that means. What's a national facility? I didn't even know this existed.
Like if you're buying something that's pre-packed, if you go to Ralph's, like if you go to your local grocery store, there are likely going to be two types of ground beef there. You can't tell by lean or 80-20 or 75-15. You got to ask the butcher. Just ask them which ones you grind here. Whichever ones they grind there, those are the ones you buy. The stuff that comes in a tube is not ground there. Don't buy it.
I didn't know burgers came in a tube.
Oh, yeah. You've never seen the pink slime burger juice gel crap? Oh, fuck. It's gross. It's super gross. So anyway, especially if you like eating a medium rare burger, you need to be mindful of where that meat's coming from. Because if you've got ground up E. coli inside, you might be getting very sick.
Sure.
And that's not fun. So
I reduce my chance of that by having a Beyond Burger.
that is true. That is absolutely true, which is another, I'd argue, food tech push. So
yeah, for sure.
Anyway, Meathead talks a lot about the science behind grilling, and I find it fascinating. There is a treasure trove of information there. I suggest if you're interested in this, going there and reading it, you can subscribe to his site and get some more back-end information. There's some more information sort of behind like a paywall. There's a forum of people there that talk about this stuff. It's really a great community, and I've learned a lot. I've really learned damn near everything I know from him.
AmazingRibs.com.
AmazingRibs.com, yeah. What's interesting is some people will then, they'll pontificate about, using a thermometer is cheating, or doing...
Why is that cheating? Why would that be cheating?
Because they'll say, literally, it's not the way we used to do it. We used to do it and they'll talk about these technology advances that are all not traditional barbecuing. And Meathead's response is, unless you're digging a hole in the ground and filling it with coal and putting the meat in it,
right,
you're not doing it traditionally.
Sure.
Like using a metal can is not traditional. And I've always appreciated his view of because to me what that says is...
What do they mean traditionally? Like in the 50s?
Well, I think what folks are alluding back to a time of, yes, like a kettle grill, and that's traditional. His point is people have been cooking meat with fire
very long time
for a much longer time than that. Yeah. But anyway, Meathead really does a great job talking about Low and Slow. He was my introduction. He was my sort of guide on the initial steps of my adventure doing Low and Slow, because I was very intimidated by it. Initially, I was like, oh, that looks really hard. You can do meat for a long time, and I don't know what to do. But buy temperature probes.
How would you do it before? You'd just do it hot and fast till it kind of felt right?
No, I never did it. I just grilled. I was just a griller.
Oh.
The first rack of ribs I ever made as a human was during the pandemic.
Oh, really?
I had never made ribs before that. Never barbecue ribs. I mean, I've cooked ribs other ways, but never as a barbecue style rib.
I don't own a green egg yet, but I look at them and I'm
you would love one.
I'm tempted.
You can borrow one.
I don't want to borrow one. If I'm going to get one, I'm going to commit to it. Let's do it. But that's a lifestyle.
Nah, you don't have to be as crazy as me. You can fire them fast. It's really, oh man, once you've had a steak on good charcoal.
I have a feeling, knowing my personality, that if I put a green egg in my yard, a borrowed one or one that's just coming, if one falls out of the sky and it's here temporarily because it fell out of a Boeing plane.
Okay.
Let's just
they didn't bolt it down. It happens.
And it falls here, so it's just here temporarily.
Yeah.
I promise you, I'm going down the rabbit hole of this whole thing, and it's going to be a lifestyle.
Here's the good news. In 2025, I have it on a good source that they have a new big green egg coming out that is matter over thread.
Oh, see, now I'm really in.
And I feel like that would be perfect for you.
All right, we have to get out of here, but quickly before we do, have you seen or read anything good this last week?
Of course. How can you not?
Yeah.
Have you seen these AI videos, these AI-generated videos from the Dor Brothers? Have you seen any of them?
I have seen a few of them, yeah.
Oh, man. So these guys, they've sort of recently emerged as pioneers in AI-generated visuals, pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Sure.
They've done hundreds of music videos, commercials, social media clips.
And they look great.
They look great, right? But they've gone into these like AI deep fakes that I really like because they're so over the top. You look at it and you're like, yeah, okay, this is fake. But then once you get over the whole fake thing and you sort of just look at what they're doing, and they'll do these videos that depict anybody from Trump to Harris, plenty of Putin in there, committing these like fictional crimes. Like it's these completely bonkers scenes. But you kind of look at it and go, oh yeah, AI is like here. And you think about this, like the intersection of AI and entertainment and communication, and they've sort of brought that to real life right now, not in the future, but like right now.
Sure.
And I think that's fascinating to me, right? These quote hypothetical risks of AI that nerds like you and I talk about on this show. You can just watch one of these videos and be like, oh, it's here, like right now.
They go over the top to make sure these are not the real people doing this. By the way, put your politics aside, because everybody's going to be doing crazy things in these videos.
Of course.
It's not meant to be a political statement.
Not at all.
It's meant to be this really amazing video experience.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
So I'll put some links in the show notes. I also love that whenever they show Zuckerberg, he usually has like a lizard with him. They always go to that joke. The Zuckerberg lizard joke is not lost upon them. But it's really interesting and it's super fun. So I'll put that into the show notes for you guys to check out. How about you? What have you seen?
Seth Meyer's Dad Man Walking. I am not sure anyone is funnier these days on family life, marriage dynamics, and navigating everyday situations in New York City.
Have you not listened to our show? I think we're pretty funny.
This is a whole nother level. Seth and his wife are raising 3 kids, which sounds far more complicated than raising one like I did. And I guess since my kid is now older, I'm out of the demographic of this special.
Sure.
You're dead in it. You're exactly in it.
Thanks for reminding me.
Highly recommend this. So funny. Totally hilarious. By the way, it's also up for the Golden Globes Best Performance in Stand-Up category.
Oh, wow. Now, I did think before we had our second child, I was like, oh, you're in the thick of it. One more kid's like 50% more work, right? It's not 100%.
Oh, yeah.
It's like 50% more work because you already got all the stuff. You already know all the things.
Not true.
That's wrong. The second kid is 200% more work.
Of course.
You have one child and your child is being a mess. You just hand them to your spouse, right? And you get your break or your reprieve. Now, when that happens to the second kid, the spouse is dealing with the first child.
Right. Her hands are all full. Wait till you get to 3 kids. Seth Meyer and his wife have 3 kids.
Yeah.
And you got to run a zone. You're no longer running man to man.
I mean, at some point, you just let them like police themselves, right? I mean, at some point, it's just Pavlovian, I don't know, survival of the fittest.
A hilarious comedy special, Seth Meyer's Dad Man Walking on Max now.
Dad Man Walking. The play on words on that name is fantastic.
So good.
I'll check that out.
That is the episode.
Thank you for joining us for All This Nonsense, a truly terrible podcast from The Awful Company. Visit us on the web at nonsense.productions. I'm Stu Little.
I'm Jeff Parker.
If you like this program, please follow, download, subscribe, and like it. Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, AntennaPod, iHeartRadio, Spotify, My Favorite Overcast, or wherever you may get your podcasts from.
Nonsense is produced using the Dor multi-track digital audio workstation. Amazing full-featured software, open source and free. This trick where you can understand me talking while music plays underneath is done with Dor. Check it out. Special thanks to our floor director, Max Little.
Oh, they need to get back into school. They have these weeks off, and it's fucking come to work day every day. Just sitting there pushing buttons. We'll be every Thursday morning for more nonsense. Please join us. I still have them. I have them somewhere. I have the 2 molars they took out. They're massive. They're fucking bear teeth.
You might be a pack rat.
No, they're mine. I wanted my colon when they took it out. I asked my surgeon.
Give your appendix out. They can't give you your appendix.
Why not? I brought it with me. Check the security camera. It came in here with me. I'm not stealing it.